may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid.
I am the smart. I am the smart. I am the smart. I am the smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And I want to say one thing to your children. I know some really great ice cream places around here. And Daddy owes you. Yeah? So talk to me afterwards.
Probably just a coincidence.
Still have the choice, ultimate authority over what happens to her body.
But there's a child inside her body.
Hold on.
What about meth?
Like, should she be allowed to do meth?
Yeah.
I think if someone is doing meth while they're pregnant, that it is completely acceptable for something like, I don't know what the name of the service is in the United States.
Child services. I guess DCFS would be.
Oh,
it's her body, though.
Yeah, it's her body.
If she wants to do meth, what's the big deal?
The big deal is that she's intentionally trying to kill a child.
Hold on there a minute.
Yeah, and I see where we're going.
I don't understand what you're saying.
What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that?
In Massachusetts right now, those crisis pregnancy centers that are there to fool people who are looking for pregnancy termination help outnumber true abortion clinics by 3 to 1. We need to shut them down here in Massachusetts, and we need to shut them down all around the country. You should not be able to torture a pregnant person like that.
I'm sick of having my mental condition come into question.
How dare you, sir?
There was a time in America when contests of athletic prowess were a metaphor for the nobility of man. Historic moments forged by the love of the game celebrated the human potential to achieve excellence. But as time passed and the country neared the millennium, something went awry.
I'm gonna go with the charge.
Okay, tell me why.
Justin Herbert, Williams, Keith Allen.
Okay, all right. I guess we got time for one more.
That offense.
We'll dive in deeper here. Raiders, Chargers. Who are you backing to win this one, Stephen A?
I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Raiders. I'll just go with that.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
But if the forces of evil should rise again to cast a shadow on the heart of the city, call me.
Question. How do we call?
He gave us a signal.
This day, we rescue a world from mysticism and tyranny, and usher in a future brighter than anything we can imagine.
Screw him. This is your time. Now go out there and take it. I got something to say.
Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.
Welcome to the show. You are one-on-one with Wes the Sports Guy here on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, all night, all the time at westhesportsguy.com as well. This is going to be a trial by fire, if you want to call it that. But basically, something new, something different for this channel. If you are a returning viewer, I appreciate you. If you are new here, please leave a like, subscribe, follow me at westthesportsguy.com. All those social media links, all the video sites, it's all conveniently located for you at westthesportsguy.com. And if you're seeing some similarities to how the setup is with other streamers with StreamYard, this is where a lot of that support, where you're helping me out by buying products at coffeebrandcoffee.com. I've got the link in the description of this video and all of my videos as well, most of the recent ones, I should say. And if you're supporting that product, which I still stand by, Coffee Brand Coffee, all your coffee, tea, and cocoa selections. They've got some snack options as well. I don't know if they still have them, but they are available. I do realize that Rumble's having a bit of issues right now, so that's going to have to be something technically done at a later time. I do apologize for that. I will upload the video after this stream is over to Rumble, so if you do want to watch it there, I will get that uploaded at a later time, probably today or tomorrow. But I know I'm having some issues with it right now. So like I said, trial by fire. And yeah, it's going to be one of those days, but that's just the way it works with technology nowadays. But I do appreciate you tuning in on all the various other sites that I've got it linked up right now. I've got it at YouTube. I've got it at Twitter/X. I've got it at Odyssey. I've got it at Facebook. So basically, to give the quick synopsis of, hey, how come you haven't been on since that Super Bowl preview? Well, it's not because of the game. It's not because of the outcome of that game, mind you. It's more to do with I wanted to basically do things a little bit differently with the future of just, again, as I've said before, if you're a returning viewer, if you're new to here, basically what I'm doing this for is as a hobby. I'm not doing this more so to get any kind of notoriety or to do anything different, special, mind you. It's just me wanting to do something that I enjoy on the side. I have a different job that I get the income to sustain myself on the side. You know, that's what I do 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Sometimes on the weekends with overtime if that comes up, but not going to here to talk about that. But basically, this is just my hobby. And I do appreciate you tuning in to see little old me talk about whether if it's mostly sports, since I am Wes the Sports Guy, the way things have gone now in society, culturally, politically, economically, all kinds of different things, medically speaking as well. If you've seen my videos about the COVID insanity and all that kind of stuff that's been going on for the last, now we're 4 years since that happened now. Time flies. But there's just been so much going on, and it's not just an all-encompassing thing about sports. Some of it is related to sports and those topics that I discuss on this channel and on various social media platforms. But it's also something that I wholeheartedly feel that more needs to be said. I think there needs to be more voices out there. There can't be less. Censorship has run amok many, many times over. And mostly in my adult lifetime, I've seen it ramped up to a level that, yes, history can repeat itself and does all the time. But the way that we're looking at things going forward, I think that there needs to be some pivot. And the question I proposed, which you can answer amongst yourself, if you want to answer it in the chat as well, go for it. Answer it in the comments. What are you willing to sacrifice? Now, this is kind of a broad stroke question, but essentially what I'm getting at is things are probably going to get worse. If you think they're bad now, they're probably going to get worse. And I would say, to what level, I can't really predict it. I could definitely speculate about some things and go into greater detail at a later time. It's not what I'm going to do here, but essentially that question, what it means to me is, what am I willing to sacrifice? I'm willing to sacrifice just about everything. There's a document called the United States Constitution, and before that, the mission statement was the Declaration of Independence, where a bunch of guys decided to sacrifice their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. For what? Well, freedom, ultimately. That all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Fairly simple documents. They're not very long and they're pretty straightforward in the grand scheme of things. I realize I might be going a little bit off script in some points with what I'm doing here, but I appreciate you sticking around. And if you watch it later, that's perfectly fine. Rather than live, I get it. Everybody's got busy lives, but just to kind of go along with the theme that I continue here, I should preface that most of what I do is not script related. So that's why I might be a little bit all over the place here. So just want to preface that before I continue with ultimately where I'm heading with this. And with how this country, me being in the United States of America, I know not everybody that could be watching this is based in the United States, but the way things have played itself out here fairly recently, I just have a sneaking suspicion that things are not going to get much better. They're probably going to get worse before they get better. And ultimately, I think that there needs to be more adult discussions. And I'm not using the word conversations for a reason because I think that word's been beaten to death. I think discussions is where we need to be at. And essentially, where this all ties to, it's like it's got nothing to do with what's coming later this year in November. It's got nothing to do with what could possibly come after that. That's part and parcel for that's the show. I'm not really partaking much in that show. But I believe, as I've changed my interactions on the Twitter/X platform, whatever they want to call it nowadays, is yes, I do talk a lot about sports there. I try to keep things mostly in that realm, especially when the way sports bros want to change the narratives to things that have nothing to do with the results of games and how the outcomes happen in said games, which I'll have a lot to talk about in a future episode when it comes to the likes of Shohei Ohtani, what's going on with him, what's going on with the NFL. You're starting to bar a particular tackle in the NFL. I mean, things are destined to change from time to time, but in terms of how we go about it and what makes sense for any given situation, I think a lot of it's being warped right now. But to go back to what I was getting at with the Twitter and X thing at the start of this section of what I wanted to discuss, I'm going to be all over the place. I apologize, but there is a point to this in the end. So I changed what my mantra is when it comes to, okay, yes, I talk about sports. Yes, I'm a sports talker. But the other part of it is, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, is I want to seek the truth. No matter what the situation is. So whether if it's a small event locally, whether if it's something nationally, something globally, whatever the case may be, I want to know what the truth is. And what are the facts? Like, just down to the basics. I don't need people's opinions embedded in something that's newsworthy when all I want to know is just tell me what happened. What's the truth? That's it. That's all that matters to me. Everybody's different. Some people might not want the truth. Okay. But in the long run, that's not beneficial to you or to society at large. So some of those clips that I played, some of those, yes, they are memes in the long run, but some of those clips that I played here in that intro video that I put together before I started, there was some intent behind a lot of that. What you are seeing currently out of the president of these United States is a man he's got a checkered past, to say the least. But he's also clearly suffering from dementia. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's you can't deny that. The other part of it too is, hey, the big topic that's blaring up social media right now is, hey, what's going on with we have a pretty major Christian holiday coming up on Sunday called Easter. And what does this White House, what does this regime decide to do? Oh, it's going to be Trans Visibility Day. We're seeing that every day. I mean, you had to do it for Sunday, this Sunday of all the days. It's a proclamation that the White House released today or yesterday, late last night. Of course, they do it on a holiday weekend when they expect nobody to really care about it. But, I said in a video when I was defending Riley Gaines, and I still do, that men are men, women are women. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's the truth. You're born a man or you're born a woman. There's no other way around that. Just because you change your physical appearance, just because you have this strange logic to think that if a child, and it's the entire age range of what's described as a child, so a newborn to 17, just about 18 years old, that's a child. You seem to believe that somebody that is not of sound mind can consent to, hey, they don't want to be a girl, they don't want to be a boy anymore. They can decide to get chemically castrated or physically, and they'll be fine in the end. No, that's not the truth. Truth of the matter is that's a one-way street. And a lot of the medical industry that is either championing these surgeries, championing these gender identity issues, that yes, some people have these kinds of psychic problems, and I'm sympathetic to all of them. But the fact remains that it's not going to do them any good if they go down this road, especially when you're a child. That's a one-way street. You're going to be interrupting what you have been provided by your creator. You're either a man or a woman, and you're going to interrupt that before they hit their puberty stages. It's going to cause even more issues later on down the road. And I can give countless and countless examples of why that's proven to be the case here fairly recently, not just historically, but recent history. But you're seeing it for yourself. If you see that this stuff is being pushed in front of you, whether you want to accept that it's happening or denying that it's happening, it's there. It's there for you to see. It's very, very clear what's going on. But my sympathy stops at the point where you're starting to say we have to change how we talk to one another with different pronouns. We have to change how we're writing about people. We have to change how people and their names are. We're dead naming people. No, that's just a simple no for me. So simply put, that's one part of this kind of craziness that's going on is just no. Men are men, women are women. Anybody that tries to say otherwise, they're just no, they're pushing an agenda of some kind, or they're just flat out lying. And then one of the other clips I was putting in that video was about, hey, what is it that's in a woman's body when they are clamoring to say that they should be able to kill their child? That's what's there. It's a child. It's another human being. It's not a clump of cells. It's not a zeitgeist. It's not whatever different terminology that the just calling what it is, the progressive left, the regressive left. They want to just have it where you can go from conception, even discussing after a child is born, terminating the child, which is kind of a form of what the gender ideology and transgender stuff is becoming now. So all this stuff happening is showing to myself, it might be different for you, but it's showing to me that there's an avenue that I haven't quite gone down yet that I think I should be exploring more. And I even said this a couple years ago that I probably should start reading this. And I got it as a gift for Christmas a couple years ago from my folks. And I've kind of been putting it off, not so much to say that I don't want to know what the answers are after I read this, but essentially what I think what's been keeping me back is that not even the excuse of I don't have time to read, because I've read more than I have in the last 5 years than I did in the first 20 years before all this craziness was starting to really happen and came to a boiling point. But why I think it's come to this point where I think I should start doing this and start reading this book is that I believe that it's not so much that I'm going to find all of the answers, but at least there will be some light and truth be shown in a good bit of what I will end up reading in this. And what the book that I'm talking about is the Bible. You probably have read it already. If you haven't, I'm not trying to tell you that this is something you need to do. I'm just going over what I'm going to start going down, where I want to find out the truth. And to go a little bit into the religion side of things here for a second, I am not by any stretch of the imagination you know, got to be at church every Sunday. I'm a sports guy. I watch football on Sundays. So church has not been a thing that was in the beginning when I was growing up to now, still not going to church. And it's kind of the long and short of it is that there's just not been a lot of good examples in my adult life of, hey, this is a place to go. This is the right church that's really getting active and really talking about current events and things of that nature and applying the stuff from the Bible to current events. Like I haven't seen that. I haven't had good examples of that. But there are a few that I will point out here that have kind of helped me along this way to where, okay, I think the time is now. I got to start. I have to see what's in this. I have to find out what's the truth, what's out there for me. And if more folks in society want to take that leap and see for themselves, have at it. Again, this is not me trying to preach anything to you. This is just me talking about my own journey in this. This is like the very early edition of what I guess would be described as a faith walk for myself. So to prove it that I have one, just going to show you real quick. This is it. So this is what was gifted to me a couple years ago. I haven't started to read it yet, but going to start doing that here probably tonight. And just a few examples of places that I've been watching and people that I've been paying attention to, and the way that they're talking about, not so much with, the Bible, not the book itself, but just the values and the principles that come with being a Christian. And there's a few examples I want to point out here that have kind of helped me get to this point where it's like, okay, no, I gotta start. I have to start opening this thing up and I gotta start reading it. So first one would be the Steve Day show. I've been watching his show since late 2019. That was basically more so for the sports talk than anything else, but then the real world cultural stuff, the political stuff to an extent, but they talk a lot of sports on that show. So that's what was kind of intriguing to me in the beginning. And then when the whole COVID insanity started happening in the beginning of 2020, that was a great source of not just information, but just being pointed in the right direction where you could find and see the sources for yourself. So it's not that you had to take and I would strongly suggest the same thing. Don't take anybody's word for it. Look it up for yourself. That was a huge tool to help in that kind of pre-awakening to what's really happening at that time and what we now know to be true, what was going on during all that. So I'm not going to rehash any of that, but he is also a co-author of the book that I did a video here on this channel about all that COVID insanity. There needs to be a lot of accountability to a lot of people in a lot of places. He co-authored with Daniel Horowitz the book Rise of the Fourth Reich, which I made a video on this channel reacting to a video I did in the beginning of 2020 and talking about how you have to read that book. And that was a large part of why I'm at this point now. And I would give the credit to Steve and his crew, Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. They also do a Theology Thursday segment, and that's been the case the entire time I've been watching that show. I didn't always pay attention to the Theology Thursdays, but more so lately in the last couple of years, I've been paying attention to that segment, just kind of hearing things and hearing how there's a lot of stuff that's related to what's happening in current times with what's written in that book. And that show has definitely helped me get to this point. Another show, Jason Whitlock's show. You might not like Jason Whitlock for what he's written in the past as a sports writer, columnist, but his show right now that I think his Tennessee Harmony thing, which I believe is either on Wednesdays or Thursdays, one of those days of the week, but it's once a week. His Tennessee Harmony segment has been also instrumental in me getting to this point. He'll have Anthony Walker, Virgil Walker. Those are two names that are prominently shown in that segment. He's had a few other names as well on the Tennessee Harmony segment, but no, Anthony and Virgil Walker, they're not related, even though they have the same last name. Two different guys, but they explain a lot of passages in the Bible and really help kind of modernize a lot of the sayings in the book, which is, I think that's another reason why I, and probably you yourself, don't read it, because it's going to be difficult to understand a lot of it. But I credit that show, and I credit Jason having that Tennessee Harmony segment to kind of help simplify a lot of things that could be downright confusing to a lot of people, including myself. And I do appreciate that being an option for the general public to see and realize this isn't as difficult as it seems from the outside looking in. Another person that long time ago, she kind of made a name for herself. She was a soccer player at the time at LSU. Um, she also, first time I saw and heard of her, she was doing an interview on, at the time, Dan Lebertard's Highly Questionable, I think is what it was called, his show on ESPN, where she was telling her story about how she was struggling with her dad committing suicide. This is Mo Isom. She's got a pretty large following on social media right now. But that's the first time I remember seeing her and seeing her story, and kind of like, it tugs at your heartstrings what she was going through at her younger days, and then seeing that she, was a pretty prominent soccer player at LSU, kind of doing a, tryout thing there with the football team, being the kicker and whatnot. So that was just kind of like I'm not going to go so far to say that was a publicity stunt, but that was just like a niche thing at the time. That's really why she was getting a lot of attention at that time, more so from not her personal story, but that's where I first saw her telling her story, and been following her on social media since then. She asked for donations. I think this was at least 10 years ago. She was going on a missionary trip to Africa. I gave her some money to help with that. And in turn, she was giving signed pictures with a Bible verse on it. And I still have that picture. It's framed in another place right now. So that's always been something that's stuck with me, is that somebody that is that committed to the word and to her faith. She's a living testament to that, and I credit her to have me be at this point now. We're going to start diving into the Bible. And last but certainly not least, you might have heard of this person, Melanie Mack. She is pretty much a firebrand right now on social media. I mean, it's comical, some of the things that she's posting lately. But simply put, what she's been hammering for the last year and a half, at least it seems, is to read the Bible, read a chapter every day. And she says, no excuses. So, okay, you got me. I'm going to start reading. I don't know if I'm going to get through a chapter a day, but I'm going to read every day. And like I said at the start of this is just me. Not really. I try to avoid using the word venting. This isn't me venting. This is just me kind of just exhaling. This is me letting go, and trying to find peace, I guess, is the best way to say it. Like I said, I am not wearing my faith on a sleeve all the time, every day, every hour, every minute. I'm not that person, but I don't know. This isn't something that's really scary, frightening, or anything like that. This is just something that I feel like this is something I have to do. I have to just dive right in and get it over with, and not so much feel like it's something I'm not going to go back and revisit. No, I'll go back. I'll double check some things. I'll get some clarifications on some things, obviously, because I'm not going to understand everything the first time. I don't expect that. But I think I'm just at a point where I feel like I need to start going into another arena to find what it is that is basically what is true, what's beautiful about our existence, and what it is that, I mean, ultimately what makes us what makes human beings special, to generalize this thought, is that we have, free we have a freedom, or free state of mind, I should say, to do just about anything and everything that we want. Doesn't always mean it's going to end up being good in the end, but ultimately that's our choice, and we're always presented good and bad choices, and it's up to us to figure out which ones are the good ones, and that's ultimately where we need to go. Do I think this is going to solve everything? Reading this and going about it every single day, I don't I don't expect it to. But there's one thing that I don't think can hurt, and that's just diving right in, see see where the chips fall, and what's the worst that could happen? I I end up reading the entirety of the Holy Bible, and I I find Jesus. Like, what's the worst that could happen? I don't see what's going to be the problem. But then again, that's human nature for you, where we either, if it's finding excuses, or we think that it's not going to end up being something that it's put up to be. But that's basically where I'm at. And like I said, going forward here at the top of this, I'm going to try to do this every week. I don't know what the time set's going to be. I'm going to try to keep it at a set time. I don't know if it'll be late at night or earlier in the morning, but most likely it'll be on Saturdays. It could be on Sundays, especially when it's not football season. But hey, I'll make the adjustments as they go. And again, sorry that it's not live on Rumble if you were looking forward to that, but I've got the video that I'll post later on Rumble here after this is all said and done, and get it posted there for you so you can check it out at that site. Bookmark westthesportsguy.com for all of my social media links. If you were subscribed to the podcast, probably not going to be doing this in a podcast form as it's currently slated, but maybe I'll do that later on in the editing process when I have some free time to start doing that. But I do appreciate you checking in, leaving a like, leaving some comments, subscribe. Again, bookmark westthesportsguy.com. I'm going to have that MLB preview up here in the coming week. I know I usually say I try to get it up before opening day. That's kind of been hit or miss a lot of times because, hey, that's just life. It happens. But I will definitely have that preview up for the MLB preview for the new season at westthesportsguy.com. Bookmark that site. Get that Coffee Brand Coffee discount as well. It's 5%. I'll have more on that in the next stream next week. Most likely we'll be talking about Shohei Ohtani's issues and the whole gambling thing in professional sports. And hey, nobody saw a problem with this, with all these gambling sponsorships going through all these major sports leagues. So that'll be a hot button topic I'll probably have for you next week. And I'll hopefully get that Rumble stream up and running. But regardless, I'll have that video posted there at Rumble. Apologies to that. But thank you for tuning in at all of these different platforms that I got going. It was Facebook, Twitter, X, YouTube, Odyssey. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a like, subscribe, comment if you liked what you saw. Yeah, trial by fire. That's basically where we're at here with this. So. Good stuff. Yeah, I'll start reading this thing. Start reading the Bible later tonight. But again, thank you to those that I mentioned: Steve Dace, Jason Will, Mo Isom, Melanie Mack. Thank you for helping me get to this point. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you live next time.